Hi, my name is Pamela Fuselli, and I'm the host of Popping the Bubble Wrap. Are you the person in your family who worries about the safety of others, about buying safety products and using them? Are you yelling, "Yes, that's me"? Then this is the podcast for you. Raising a child or children can be a hair-raising undertaking, and keeping them safe is your priority. Parachute's Popping the Bubble Wrap podcast explores what you really need to think about and provides easy tips on prevention strategies. No bubble wrap here, though. The holidays look a little different for everyone. For some, it may include cozying up next to the fireplace with a good book or a movie. For others, it may be visits with friends and family, with lots of coming and going. If one thing is true for most, it's that when you're on holiday, routines often are disrupted and you may be distracted by the festivities. We want everyone to enjoy the season. Today, we're going to be talking about hazards that are common around the holidays so you can keep your family safe from injury. Joining us today for the conversation are parents Samantha Bruin and Brianne Harmon, as well as our expert, Dr. Lynn Warda, Associate Professor at the Department of Pediatrics and Child Health and Associate Medical Director of Pediatric Emergency Medicine at the University of Manitoba. Welcome, everyone.
Nice to be here.
Thanks. Thank you so much for having us.
So, Brianne and Samantha, maybe you can tell me a bit about what your holidays look like. What are some of your favorite traditions or activities for your family? What might be different during the holidays than normal, everyday, daily routines? Brianne, maybe I'll start with you.
Our holidays are always a ton of fun, incredibly busy. We are a household that celebrates both Christmas and Hanukkah. So we have double the family, double the activities, double the celebration, and double the decorations and traditions. And so in our home, we set up for both holidays. Sometimes they land on the same time of year. Sometimes they're different. So our holidays can extend easily 4 weeks of celebration. And within those traditions, we have decorating is a huge part of our traditions, setting up for Hanukkah, and of course, decorating the tree. The kids love doing that with us. And of course, one of a family favorite is baking our holiday sugar cookies.
Sounds delicious. Samantha, what about you? What do your holidays look like? What are some of your favorite traditions or activities that you and your little ones? You have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, am I right?
That's right. So life is always busy, but especially busy around the holiday season. Our family, we celebrate Christmas. I am fortunate enough to have family that lives in town, as well as close by in British Columbia. So they often come visit during the holidays. We also have friends, lots of friends that have gatherings at their houses. Actually, in recent years, since we've got young kids and it's easier for their bedtime and schedules and things, we've actually hosted Christmas dinners at my place with my side of the family. So that adds a whole level of busyness to everything. We also try to go out and do some winter activities. Last year, we took my then 2-year-old ice skating for the first time. So that was a fun experience for her. So it'll be my little 1-year-old second Christmas coming up. So we'll get to do some fun things with her too.
Yeah, and it changes as they age, especially in those first 5, 6, 7 years of what they're doing around the holidays. Brianne, what do you see as some challenges that you've come up against, or things that maybe you have to think about differently because it's the holiday season? You mentioned, you celebrate both Hanukkah and Christmas. You've got obviously decorations for both, but what are some of the other things that you might think about when it comes to the holidays?
I think a big thing that comes up in our family often around Hanukkah is lighting of the candles on the menorah. When I was a kid, it was always such an honor to be the one to light the candles. And little hands near a flame can be very dangerous. And our children are 3.5 and almost 7 now. And for many years, my eldest son has had the opportunity to light the candles. And my daughter has now started to really want to be the person to light the candles. So fire safety is a huge thing for us, especially in the lighting of the candles. And I would say another really big piece that we keep our eye on is choking hazards, specifically around food during the holidays.
Right.
For Christmas, we often get together with my husband's side of the family, a number of families together, a lot of kids. It is just pure joy and chaos in all the best ways. But we also have to keep an eye on our youngest specifically to make sure that she's eating appropriate foods. When she was almost 2 years old, we were at a beautiful family gathering, and all the adults are enjoying the charcuterie and the appetizer platter, and there's our almost 2-year-old toddling over and helping herself to whole olives and pickles and, there were nuts on the plate, whatever she could find, and doing what the adults were doing. And while it's adorable and a great memory and a great thing to share, it is something we think about in terms of making sure the food is prepared safely and making sure that there is an adult to be able to distribute a plate for her with things that are cut and also age appropriate for her to eat.
Right. Samantha, you talked about shifting the celebrations to your own house. So you must have a little bit more control over some of the things that are offered or on offer for people in the house, and obviously access from the kids. What are some of the things that you've thought about, and as your children have grown or changed, especially from baby to toddler? What are some of the things that are top of mind for you?
Yeah, in terms of holiday gatherings, definitely at home, I do have a little bit more, control over things that are served. But it's also things like hot beverages like coffee or tea and alcohol. Reminding my family and friends when they come over to put those drinks up high on the counter instead of on the coffee table, where my little ones can toddle around and pull them off the counter. So that's one of the things. The other thing I was going to mention is about going to other people's houses. Brianne did a great summary of how it is usually at other people's houses when there's food around and everything. But also there's, people leaving their purses around, not thinking, and my little ones getting into their bags and just pulling out their phones. This hasn't happened, but, I know that medication in bags or inhalers are an issue. So that hasn't happened to me, thank goodness, but that's definitely a risk.
Yeah, they're curious. I mean, they're looking for things to explore, and especially new things that aren't normally in the house, like somebody else's purse or bag, that they can explore. That's what they're attracted to. Lynn, what are some of the most common injuries that you and other colleagues that work in the emergency department see that are maybe you see them during the year, but more often at the holidays?
Well, totally related to people's experiences. Fire and burns are some of the more serious ones that we see. So related to candles tipping over, a little one tugging on a tablecloth or something, and there is a candle on it. Hot tea and coffee, other hot foods that they were able to kind of reach up to the counter, pull over a pot, etc. The kitchen is such a busy place during the holidays, and the kids are all underfoot. They want to help. They want to help bake. So we definitely see little burned hands, touching baking pans, etc. But also, the ambiance of a fire is a very holiday, wintry thing to do. So whether it's gas fireplace or wood burning, we also see little ones who have tripped and fallen towards and landed on a fireplace, usually with their hands. So fire and burns are definitely a big one. Choking hazards have been alluded to here, and we do see that. Kids who either have an allergic reaction to something that they've eaten, or a choking spell from something that they're just not used to, or is too large for their little airways and mouths. So those are some of the common ones. Some of the outdoor activities, obviously there's enough indoor time that often the families like go outside and play. So the kids make up all kinds of things to do that they can run into trouble with. So sledding is one that we see a lot in Winnipeg. And often it's just, poor choices by kids and sometimes their parents in terms of where they're sliding to and from. Don't slide onto the street, for example. And, the big steep hills with rocks and trees and whatnot. Obviously, some supervision by an older child or an adult is ideal. And then indoors, again, if the weather's bad or you can't be outdoors all day, there's some craziness often with very excited children running around and just simply bumping into each other and tripping and falling and bumping on the coffee table and various other things. So we do see, lacerations, cuts, bruises, and occasionally even like broken bones from these kids interacting with one another, jumping off bunk beds, stuff like that.
They have a lot of energy. And especially, as Brianne and Samantha already talked about, they've got maybe people who they don't see all that often, or they don't see them in that larger group altogether. And so there's excitement and you want them to have fun, but you also want them to be safe as well. For the fireplace burns, what are some options for parents to maybe have the fire on, but not have the hazard of a potential burn from a fireplace? Because those can be really severe.
It really depends on the type of fireplace that you have. Some of the gas fireplaces have a special insert that sort of diffuses the warmth, and they're actually safe to touch. So you can buy it when you buy your fireplace, or you can get it aftermarket for some very popular models. For a wood burning stove, a lot of people do have some kind of a grate or a barrier that they place in front of it. Sometimes it's just simple furniture placement. So you place things so it kind of discourages or prevents a child from, running right into it. But, if it's in your living room, it's in your living room. So, there's only so much you can do other than, of course, supervision for the littlest ones.
Yeah, and they can stay hot for a long time after you've turned them off. So I know in some cases parents have just not used them when the children are around because it's not worth it. And it's, causes them a real anxiety worrying about what could potentially happen. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be back in a moment. Nearly 3 decades ago, Amazon set out to be Earth's most customer-centric company, where people can discover and purchase the widest possible selection of safe and authentic goods. As part of that mission, they obsess over earning and maintaining trust by ensuring that they provide a trustworthy shopping experience. Amazon is dedicated to helping you make informed choices and use your purchases safely. Visit www.amazon.ca/product safety and usage and explore expert tips, articles, and videos from our partners to ensure a secure shopping experience. Lynn, you were talking about some of the injuries that you see in the emergency department over the holidays, and we talked about a lot of the home-based injuries. What are some of the things that you see? Obviously, people are going back and forth, visiting, traveling to different places, either short or long distances. What are some of the things that you might see related to that kind of travel?
One of the more sort of different things that we see at that time of year is people carrying things in their vehicles that are maybe heavy. They've got baking and canned goods and things like that. We don't want those flying around in the vehicle. The other is going longer distances in poor weather, really, really wanting to get to grandma's house or whatever, and sometimes making choices that are, maybe tomorrow would have been a better day. And in terms of child car seats, depending on whose vehicle the child is traveling in, obviously it's still important for them to be in their usual car seat. So, things are a bit mixed up at the holiday season, and sometimes someone is going in, I want to be in grandma's car. Well, we need to take the time then to install the seat properly in grandma's car. And it might take a few more minutes, but certainly worth the trouble.
Yeah. I think the theme here is, schedules disrupted, different environments that people are in, both adults and children, and the excitement of the holiday season, getting together and being able to spend time with each other. Brianne and Samantha, there's some, I'm sure you have questions that Lynn can help you with. Brianne, what do you have a question for Lynn that you'd like to talk about specific to your situation?
Yeah, Lynn did touch on the fire safety, specifically around fireplaces, but I would love to hear Lynn's thoughts on fire safety when it comes to, a traditional menorah or even candles at the Christmas table.
How to use those, yeah.
So whenever possible, and if it fits with your traditions, especially just for decor, much better to choose the modern non-flame candles. There are some really great ones out there now that look quite realistic and of course are safer. But when actually lighting a candle, which is part of the tradition, being careful that children who have long sleeve clothing that might be draping and might be more sort of synthetic materials, that they are, tucked away, pulled back, because that is something that can happen, is that can flame up. So that's one of them. Of course, you mentioned supervising your littlest one when they're just learning how to do this. And then once it's lit, putting it in a place that is out of reach and not on something that can be tugged down on another piece of decor like a tablecloth.
Yeah, those are great tips. And the lights and candles, they may come with their own hazards, if you will, or challenges in, those little small batteries that can be both a choking hazard, but also, can cause serious harm. Lynn, maybe you can talk a little bit about, some of those issues around sizes of pieces of food or toys, especially around the holiday season that might be in the home.
So button batteries and coins, but certainly button batteries being the far worse of the two, are a few that unfortunately are relatively common in terms of things that we do see. They're in so many different types of products. You were mentioning the candle. Is there in some of these candles, the little tea lights? They're also in greeting cards that play a little tune, and those are pretty popular as well. In little gadgets, novelty toys that might be placed in a child's stocking, and they're supposed to be secured within the item, but they're not always. So for those ones, if we know that a child has swallowed one, it's an absolute emergency, and they need to, head off to the emergency department. And it sounds a bit odd, but giving them a little bit of honey on the way in the car helps to coat that little battery and prevent it from making a burn in the food tube, the esophagus, on the way there. So that's a special kind of consideration for little batteries. Small parts are the biggest issue for infants and toddlers. So that's why there's that packaging, 0 to 3, not meant for little ones, or it might say something about small parts, and that's what that means. But the issue is that they can put it in their mouth. They love to put stuff in their mouth, and then sort of swallow it, but choke on it at the same time. And the particular shapes, like grapes and hot dogs and, things that are round and smooth like that, like certain types of little balls, like those really little bouncy balls. Those are things that really can get lodged into the airway very easily and also difficult to get out. So things that can fit in one of the smaller toilet paper tubes. I mean, some of them are kind of big these days, but
right.
The rule of thumb has always been a toilet paper tube. If it's bigger than that, some children can get it in their mouth, but you could probably get it right out because it won't go very far in.
That's great to know. And Sam, you have a toddler right in that age range. But what question do you have for Lynn around the holidays and safety?
Yeah, I was wondering about. We talked a lot already about like burns and scalds and road safety and car seat securing and choking and things. Is there any other kind of maybe less known injuries that you see in your work that maybe people aren't always aware of?
Paying attention to? Like maybe
like there's
poisoning?
A more recent one. Yeah, poisoning is one that's coming to mind, especially with new legislation in various provinces legalizing edibles. So it's just more commonplace in homes now, and unfortunately can be not in the appropriate packaging, can be out of the plain paper packaging, or also there are some sources of edibles where they try to mimic very popular types of candies, and it's very difficult to tell the difference between the edibles and those types of candies. So if that were to make it into someone's stockings or, laying on the counter, it would be very tempting for a child. And it only takes one or two, and it severely affects them. They get extremely drowsy, and sometimes no one knows what's actually going on because they maybe didn't witness it. They didn't put two and two together. You mentioned having alcohol out. That's another potential, for a little one to get into, and someone doesn't even notice, and then they're stumbling around or fall, and you don't really know why. People's purses, medications in bags or in little saucers on the dining room table. Sometimes older adults put their pills out so that they're ready for them to take, and then of course one of the kids finds them. So definitely poisoning is one we do see year round, but because of all the guests coming in and the semi chaos, and people maybe not 100% eyes on every child, those things can definitely happen in the holiday season.
Yeah, and I think that's probably something that folks may not think about. They may think about plants and the different things that are in their house in that respect, but not maybe some of those things like pill taking or the things that people take on a regular basis. They're just doing it now in your house, or you're in their house, and their normal routines just, as you say, they need a reminder, so they leave it out. But Brianne, you also talked about your, kids, they want to do what adults are doing or what their older cousins or, friends are doing. And so, you leave that glass of wine or glass of beer or whatever on the table, and they just think it's a drink. They don't understand what the difference is. We want everyone to have a really good time during the holidays and enjoy themselves. But I think what the three of you have done is brought to mind a few things that parents should be aware of, some of the things that they might not have thought of, or just a really good reminder around this time of year of things they have to think about. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. Really appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode. Popping the Bubble Wrap is a podcast of Parachute, Canada's national injury prevention charity. We release episodes monthly. Visit us at parachute.ca and follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Parachute Canada. Don't keep us a secret, though. Help other parents find this podcast by sharing the link to Popping the Bubble Wrap and taking a second to submit a review. It really does help. Popping the Bubble Wrap is produced by Story Studio Network.